Hello everyone, welcome to the Kitty Pumpkin tutorial. Today we're going to use our watercolor paper, we're going to use pastels, and we're going to use our watercolors, of course. So we're going to start with making, this is a really cute picture of a kitty inside a pumpkin with a little pumpkin top on. And if you don't have pastels, you can use crayons. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with his little pumpkin top head. So I'm going to do a curved line like this, and it's kind of in line with the corner because the pumpkin head is off to the pumpkin top is off to the side. All right, so then I'm going to make it like I cut the top of my pumpkin. I can kind of curve that and straighten that. And then I'm going to do the kitty ear. So one side of his head has the pumpkin top on it, and the other side, his little ear, is poking out. So there's his ear. And I can kind of put a little inside piece. And then what I want to do is I want to do his head. So if I come from this side and I come all the way back up, then I've got his head. And then what I like to do is put a little stem on the top. So I'm just gonna go like this for his little stem. And then in the middle, I've got his nose. And actually, sorry, let me make that a little bit. I'm gonna do a curved line like this, and then I'm gonna come down and curve it and back up and curve it. So it's a triangle, but it's not a pointy triangle. It's not like this, even though you could do that. It's a curved, you're making a turn around each corner. All right, oops, see, I had paint on my, can you see that? I have paint on my table from before, but my pastel is going to cover that right up. All right, so now what I need to do is I need to give him some eyes. So I'm going to do some cat eyes. They're curved at the top and they're curved at the bottom. And I'm going to put some skinny curved lines here and maybe do a little circle in there for the pupil. And then since he's in a pumpkin, I don't know if he's happy about this or he's kind of like meh about it. So I'm just going to make him with a little straight line at the bottom, not really happy, not really sad. Maybe he thinks it's kind of fun. And then I'm gonna do the top part of my pumpkin. So I'm gonna come up and curve down and up and curve down. And you can see his head's just kind of popping out of the pumpkin. And do some pumpkin lines. And then what I want to do is I want to take my black pastel. This is going to, I've used this pastel quite a bit, so I'm going to show you, because I don't think I've shown this on a video yet, how you can kind of peel it down a bit. Sometimes the whole paper comes off and that's okay, but then your fingers get even dirtier. As you can see, I've been using pastel a lot today, so my fingers are quite dirty, but if you can keep the paper on, then it helps to keep your fingers clean. So now what we're going to do, we're gonna make sure we're holding close to the bottom. Try not to snap our pastel, or you could be using crayon. And we're gonna outline all of our pencil marks. And I always tell my kids, so I'll tell you too, that when we outline and when we're pinching like this, because when we hold, we want to pinch and rest, we're exercising our finger muscles. And just like we exercise our brain and we exercise our body, it's really important, because the more you practice and the more you strengthen those finger muscles, the more control you're going to have with anything that you're trying to write or draw. And so, you know, sometimes we feel like we can't do something or we're not good at something. It really just takes practice. And I'll tell you for sure that mostly everyone I know is a little harder on themselves than they really need to be. All right, so I've outlined my whole picture, and I need to get my orange, and I'll show you. I like to keep it real on these videos. Mine has snapped, and so I don't want you to be upset if yours snap, because we can still use them. And it's kind of funny because when they snap and I say, oh, you need to keep it holding close to the bottom, well, when they snap, you have no other choice. So I'm going to take my orange, and you can see they still work, even if they're tiny. And sometimes we have these tiny bits because we've used them so much, that's what we're down to. And art supplies can be really expensive, so you want to use it to the very last point. So as you can see, I'm coloring into my black. Now, whether you're using pastel or crayon, you'll notice that the black smudges in, and it gives it a textured look, which I really like. Of course, if you've done my videos before, you know I say this so much, maybe you're sick of hearing it, but I always kind of try and say it like maybe this is the first time you're watching my videos. Okay, so I'm gonna do the bottom part of the pumpkin too, and one thing I like about pastels is that they make it a really vibrant color, because pastels are a little bit softer than crayon, which makes them more like a paint. And as you can see, like I had some of those marks from my table being dirty, but now that I'm coloring over with the pastel, you won't even be able to tell. And those black marks, when I first started doing this with classes, some kids would be really upset and like, oh no, I need to start over. And I said, no, that gives your picture character. So you want to keep that. It makes it look like one of those fancy oil paintings where they used all the different brush strokes, and you're getting to do it with coloring. And you can see if there's any white, if you go over top of it, it just smooths it right out. So I really, really like doing that. And then you don't really need to smudge with your finger. I mean, you can, but you don't need to, because the pastel does all the work for you just by coloring. So I'm gonna get right in there, and I am almost done with my orange. Okay, so there we go. Oops. So there we go. And then I need to do the stem. So take some brown and color right into that stem, like that. And then I'm actually going to make this kitty a little spooky with some yellow eyes, but you can see that I'm coloring down into that black pupil, so they're not bright yellow, they're almost like a gray. But that's gonna really stand out because I'm gonna color this cat black, but I wanna give it a lighter little nose. And remember, you can use whatever colors you want. This is just a guide. I'm gonna go a little lighter in the ears so that we have that sticking out. Then I'll take my black and go into, now black is not a color that I really like coloring with all the time because it is so unforgiving. I love outlining with it. I use it in almost all my art, but you have to be really careful with it because it's hard to cover up if you do something that you don't like. And then I talked about our meh smile, but the thing is, you're probably not really gonna see it that much because the black kitty, but you can go around and I'll show you. So you've kind of got a little white around it to show that it's there, and I'll show you what we'll do to fill some of that white in. Okay, so I'm gonna come in all the way around and be really careful not to go over top of anything that I don't want to. And if you do, then that's okay too. we just make it work. We just go with the flow with our art. We don't want our art to stress us out. We want to have fun with it. So I'm just going to go like this and get right into here. And remember, if I'm going too fast for you, that's okay. You can always pause me, right? Or you know how to color your picture, so you might just want to just continue coloring and then finish up after the video's done. Okay, so I got all of that. I do have a little bit of white spots in here, so now I can come in and kind of cover those up. But right around here, I might just kind of smudge it in so that I can see his little smile or his little meh face. And then that is all for the pastel. Now what I want to do is I want to get my watercolors, and I'm going to use the deep, well, first let me show you. I'm going to use the deep blue, and how I'm going to get it ready is I have a jar of water that I've dipped my brush in, and I'm just waking the paint up. So I'm kind of pressing into it. I'm not scrunching and scrubbing my brush because I want my brush to stay nice and smooth. So I'm just waking the paint up a bit. I've got it watery. And then I want a really deep sky because it's more of a like coming to nighttime. And the reason I like to use watercolor with pastel is because the pastel is waxy, just like your crayons. So this will work with crayons too. And it resists the paint. And so it won't go over top of your pastel. So you can be a little less careful. So you can do nice long strokes like this, or you can kind of color in depending on your skill level. And when you're coloring in like this, I find with my younger kids, it's nice because it just looks like a windy sky. Or some of my older kids or my more, you know, they've used watercolor a little bit more and they like to do their long strokes like this. And then it's more of a solid sky. So you can see how I'm just kind of taking the wind right out of it. And if you get some on your, and it's not going away, then you can kind of just go like that. So I'm just going to, what I really like too is that if you have some smudge marks that are on the white part, the watercolor does a really nice job of covering that up. And so you can do your whole sky, but see how one is kind of choppy and then the other one is smooth. So then afterwards you can just take your brush and be a little more careful, or you can be careful and smooth the whole time. But this is a really fun activity for Halloween and even Thanksgiving, because we didn't make it a jack-o'-lantern, I guess. All right, well, I hope you had fun doing this video, and you know I love to see your pictures, so please share. Thank you. See you next time.